Squalify now offers a new flagship feature known as the Board of Management Report, which allows you to take the insights displayed from the platform and present them in a new customizable and personalized dashboard for different companies based on your specific use case. The executive report is showing the worst case loss, expected large loss, expected average loss, annual expected loss, biggest risk up front, and then we are able to go into more depth about each of these areas. So for example, the board might be asking, how does our cyber worst case risk impact our balance sheet? So we talk about here the worst case loss, we show the gross profit comparison, and we provide some insights. These insights are entirely customizable based on what information you want to highlight, how you want to communicate this to your board, or what might be the most effective. But here, we've come up with some mock-up ideas, for example, explaining what the largest worst case loss scenario is that's involving a double hit ransomware attack affecting both data privacy breach and business interruption, and going into more detail about exactly what this means and where these values are coming from. What are the main drivers for the worst case loss? So focusing here on legal expenses from data privacy breaches under GDPR and US laws, is explaining where these major costs are coming from. Another question the board might be asking is, how does our current expected cyber loss fit into our risk appetite? For the example company here, we have a risk tolerance threshold of 500 million. We have a statistical overall large loss of 411 million euros at a probability of 0.5%, which is still below the risk limit defined by the Board of Management. So currently, there is no escalation process needed. We might also want to compare our overall expected large loss to our largest dividend payout. So our overall, a rare 0.5% probability but severe expected large loss of 411 million euros would have consumed nearly half of our yearly dividend payout for 2023. Another view that you could have, for example, here is cash flows from operating activity. So comparing, the 411 million expected large loss would actually reduce our actual cash flow position only marginally. So a change of liquidity strategy is not necessarily needed for cyber risk at the moment. We also might want to know how our loss potential is changing over time, right? If we're comparing different years, 2025 to 2024 or 2025 to 2026, we want to know why this loss potential is changing year over year. And we can conduct a delta analysis, which is breaking this down deeper. So you can really see how much change is coming from the risk landscape, how much change is coming from the exposure, and then how much change is coming from your company's improvement in information security. And for example, for this company, the delta analysis demonstrates that this increase is mainly driven by the increase of our exposure caused by our growing revenues, organic growth, and by merger and acquisition activities in 2023. Next, we want to think about which control chapters need improvement. So the current overall maturity level of the group is a bit below average, but according to our cyber strategy, we aim to reach a basic maturity level within the next 2 years, which aligns with compliance requirements like DORA. Another question the board might have is where you sit in comparison to industry peers that are in the same vertical, similar size, similar employee count, and so on and so forth. And so, of course, we won't tell you the names of those companies. They will be anonymized. But you can also see where you sit on this risk balance chart in relation to those companies, which is really looking at their information security maturity compared to their exposure level. And again, here we have this overall entity view, which I talked about earlier, just displayed in a different format. So these are just different views or different ideas of how we might want to present this information and compare it to other metrics which are important for the board to understand.